In earlier episodes, we talked about that not too long ago, if you wanted to have an answer to a question, you had to search for it. You read books. You talked to mentors. You spent years developing knowledge through experience. Today, almost every answer imaginable can appear on your screen in seconds. Artificial intelligence can explain history, write computer code, help you start a business, plan a vacation, or summarize an entire book before you even finished your morning coffee. We are entering a world where answers are becoming almost unlimited. But that creates a new problem. If everyone has access to the same answers, what will separate one person from another? It won't be simple intelligence. It won't be who can memorize the most facts. And it definitely won't be who can ask AI to do the most work. The difference will come from something much deeper. It will be the ability to think, to recognize what truly matters, to ask questions that lead to understanding instead of just simply collecting information. Because the quality of your life is often shaped by the quality of the questions that you ask. A shallow question usually produces a shallow answer. A thoughtful question can change the direction of your life. The future will never run out of information, but it may always be searching for people who know what is worth thinking about. And that's exactly where our journey is beginning today. If you've been with me throughout this series, something has already begun to change inside you. You've learned that endless entertainment can quietly replace purpose. You realize that purpose isn't something that you accidentally discover. It is something that you intentionally choose. You've confronted the voice that has been spending years convincing you that you weren't capable enough, smart enough, or ready enough to move forward. And in our last episode, you discovered something even more important. The future version of yourself isn't waiting somewhere out there ahead. That future person is being created right now through the ordinary choices that you make every single day. Now, those weren't just interesting ideas. They were invitations to become something different. But now we arrive at a new stage in the journey. We are no longer asking, who do I want to become? We're asking a much more important question. How does that person think? Because in a world where artificial intelligence can generate information almost instantly, simply having access to knowledge will no longer make you exceptional. What will matter is your judgment, your curiosity, your discernment, your ability to recognize which questions deserve your attention and which answers deserve your trust. This is where wisdom begins. And unlike information, wisdom cannot simply be downloaded. It must be developed, one thoughtful decision at a time. So, if you truly begun becoming the person that we've been talking about throughout this series, something important is starting to happen. You stop being impressed by having quick answers. Instead, you become interested in asking better questions. Because once answers become abundant, questions become valuable. Think about it for a moment. Two people can sit down in front of the exact same artificial intelligence. They can have access to the exact same technology, the same information, and even the same amount of time. Yet one person will walk away with a list of facts. The other walks away with genuine insight. What made the difference? It wasn't the AI. It was the quality of the questions that they asked. Consider someone asking, "How do I become successful?" Now compare that with this. What kind of person would naturally create success because of the way they think, serve, and solve problems? Do you hear the difference? The first question reaches for a destination. The second begins changing the traveler. Artificial intelligence can help you explore ideas you may have never considered. It could organize information faster than any human being. It can explain difficult concepts with remarkable clarity. But it cannot decide which questions are worthy of your life. Only you can do that. And perhaps that is one of the greatest opportunities of this new age. Not to stop thinking, but to start thinking more deeply than ever before. Because asking better questions is only the beginning. The real transformation begins when you learn how to recognize which answers deserve your trust. And that's where wisdom truly starts. But asking better questions is only the beginning. The real transformation begins when you learn which answers deserve your trust. That's where judgment enters the picture. Judgment isn't about knowing more facts than anyone else. It's about knowing which facts matter. Think about the people that you respect the most. A physician, a pilot, a wise grandparent, a business owner. What makes them valuable isn't that they are memorized the most information. It's that they've learned how to weigh evidence, recognize patterns, and make sound decisions when outcomes truly matter. Artificial intelligence can present you with possibilities. Sometimes it may even present several excellent choices. But it cannot choose for you. It cannot know your values, your priorities. It cannot know the promises that you made or the life that you're trying to build. Those decisions remain deeply human. This is why judgment is becoming more valuable, not less. As information becomes easier to obtain, discernment becomes harder to find. We don't need more opinions. We need better judgment. That means learning to slow down before reacting, listen before reaching conclusions, being willing to change your mind when evidence changes, and having the humility to admit when you simply don't know yet. Ironically, wisdom doesn't make us more certain. It often makes us more thoughtful, because wise people understand that life's biggest decisions rarely come wrapped in perfect certainty. They require judgment. And once you begin approaching life that way, something remarkable starts to happen. You stop chasing certainty and you begin embracing curiosity. And once you stop chasing certainty, something remarkable begins to happen. You become comfortable learning again, not because you suddenly know less, but because you realize there's always more to discover. That's what curiosity really is. It isn't a collection of random facts. It's remaining open to new understandings. Many people reach a point where they think they've learned enough. Their opinions become permanent. Their assumptions become fixed. And slowly their world stops expanding. But the future belongs to people who never stop learning, not because they're forced to, but because they're genuinely curious. Think about the wisest people you've known. Usually they spend more time listening than speaking. They aren't afraid to ask another question, and they aren't embarrassed to say, "I haven't thought about it that way." That isn't weakness, it's growth. Artificial intelligence will continue giving us extraordinary information, but only you can decide whether that information changes you. Only you can choose to remain teachable. You can decide that today's understanding doesn't have to be your final understanding. Because wisdom isn't reaching the end of learning. Wisdom is deciding that learning never really ends. And once you begin living that way, your decisions begin changing as well. Because lifelong curiosity naturally leads to something even more valuable, a wiser way of living every ordinary day. That may sound like a big idea, but it usually begins with very small decisions. Wisdom isn't something that you turn on during life's biggest moments. It's something that you practice in the small ones. Every day, we're making hundreds of choices. How we spend our attention, how we handle our frustration, whether we listen before speaking, whether we act immediately, or pause long enough to think. Those moments may seem insignificant, but over time they shape the person we're becoming. Technology can make many decisions easier. It can mend what to watch, where to travel, what to buy, even how to solve certain problems. But it should never replace the habit of thinking for yourself. The people who flourish in the future won't be the ones who simply follow the best recommendations. They'll be the ones who thoughtfully decide which recommendations deserve to be followed. Now that's wisdom in practice. It's choosing reflection over impulse, understanding over assumption, curiosity over certainty, and growth over comfort. When those choices become habits, wisdom stops being an occasional achievement. It becomes part of your character, and character quietly influences everyday decisions that you make. That's how ordinary days become extraordinary lives, not through dramatic moments, but through thousands of thoughtful choices that almost no one else ever sees. So the question isn't whether wisdom matters. The question is, how do you begin practicing it tomorrow? That's exactly where we're going next. So let's make this practical. Tomorrow morning, before you ask artificial intelligence your first question, pause. Take just 5 quiet minutes. Don't open another app. Don't search the internet. Don't ask AI. Instead, ask yourself 3 questions. First, what am I really trying to understand? Not just what answer you want, but what problem you're actually trying to solve. Second, why does this matter to me? How could this answer change a decision, improve a relationship, or help someone else? If it doesn't matter, perhaps it isn't worthy of your time. And finally, what would I think if artificial intelligence didn't exist? Spend a few moments forming your own perspective first. Then ask AI. After that, compare its answers to your own. Notice where it challenges you, where it expands your thinking, and where it simply confirms what you've already believed. That's how you turn artificial intelligence from a substitute for thinking into a partner for learning. Because the goal isn't to ask AI more questions. The goal is to become someone who asks better questions. And when you begin doing that, you'll notice something else starting to change as well. By now, you may have noticed that this series has been quietly changing the questions you ask yourself. At the beginning, we talked about surviving in a world filled with unlimited access. Then we explored how easy it is to drift when nothing forces us to choose. We discovered that purpose doesn't simply appear. It must be built. You learned that the future version of yourself isn't created during life's biggest moments. It's created through the ordinary choices you make every single day. And now we've arrived at something even deeper. How you think determines how you choose. How you choose determines how you live. The person who asks better questions begins making better decisions. The person who makes better decisions slowly becomes wiser. And wisdom isn't measured by how much you know. It's measured by how thoughtfully you live. So tomorrow, don't worry about asking the perfect question. Simply become a little bit more intentional than you were yesterday. Pause before reacting. Think before accepting the first answer. Stay curious a little longer. Listen a little more carefully. Those small moments may not seem very important, but they are quietly shaping the person you're becoming. Because wisdom is never built all at once. It grows one thoughtful decision at a time. And every one of those decisions is helping to prepare you for a future that will always need thoughtful human beings. Every day, artificial intelligence will continue to become faster, more knowledgeable, more capable. But no technology can decide what it is worth caring about. No machine can choose your values. No algorithm can live your life. That responsibility will always belong to you. The future won't simply reward the people with the fastest answers. It will reward the people who constantly ask better questions, exercise better judgment, remain curious, and choose wisdom one ordinary day at a time. If you're wanting to stay relevant in a world where knowledge becomes unlimited, then don't focus on becoming the person with all the answers. Become the person who never stops learning how to ask the right questions. And to do that, subscribe. This is D.B. Lewis, and I will see you in the next one.